at the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need a bank, no I'm funded. Play the game like it's nothing. I'm always thankful for something. Don't take for granted, stay humble. Now wake up! It's time to look at the enemy. Look in the mirror if he is no friend to me. It's not working out, maybe it's the chemistry. It's time to break up so I can make a better me. Better believe in your mind, cause it's everything. You can mold, shape, find almost anything. All it takes is some time and some clarity to find your identity. It's mind over everything. I'm immortal. When I feel like this, I'm immortal. When I feel like this, I'm immortal. When I feel like this, I'm back. I won't stop, I'ma fight until there's nothing left. It's so what? You're gonna be hurting bad, cause I've been to hell and back. You don't wanna make me mad, I stay strong. You will never see me crack. And if you get in my way, you gonna feel the wrath. Gotta say it to my face while he's looking back. Mirror breaks after math, when I hate, I attack. I'm immortal. When I feel like this, I'm immortal. When I feel like this, I'm immortal.
Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me, yeah. Turn on your mind now, tune into the feed. We're planting digital flowers from a single tiny seed. Yeah, power to the collective in the data and the soul. The hive mind's getting louder, finding voice and control.
What is going on, Hive? I hope that everybody's having an awesome day. I forgot that this intro doesn't have the "and here we go." So if I looked like I just had a deer in the headlights moment, I certainly just did. However, if this is your first time tuning in, I'm your host, Birdie. I go live weeknights at 7 p.m. Central. Welcome to the Hive Mind. We like to think past the headlines, and tonight's going to be no different with the Idaho 4 case. But we encourage you to say whatever you want in the chat. I got the best mods on YouTube, being formerly known as Beck, Discord Dawn, Luna Bliss, and the UFO Dog. Just know that if you dish it out, we reserve the right to dish it on back. And if you're easily rattled, triggered, or offended on behalf of others, tonight is probably going to irritate the hell out of you. But good, because at this point, if anybody has a problem with us asking uncomfortable questions in regards to not just this case, but any case, they can kiss our tinfoil ass, Hive. And I mean that sincerely. I mean that sincerely. Many of us have trusted our gut for years on this case, and I feel like tonight I have to stick to my gut on this. And what we're going to be getting into is that the chaos is a part of the plan, but it's not just the chaos that we saw leading up to yesterday's announcement. I think that we need to include yesterday into this said chaos. And I'm not saying that every inconsistency proves a conspiracy. However, when I break down what this withdrawal of the plea could mean, I think it's going to open some people's eyes as to, man, that did in a way work out perfectly. The timing of it is oddly perfect, given a handful of other things that we are going to be touching on this evening. I'm going to start with this question of the day again. And that is, if you are not ready to look outside the documents for truth, how are we to find it? And it is a serious question. The reason why I ask this question again is because when you go and you look at the landscape on social media or the news about this case, the documents are not being brought up by any of them. And I don't think it's necessarily just because they don't know them or they want to avoid them. It could be one or the other. But I think that it's the story of they were asleep. He stalked them. He killed them in their sleep. He's an incel. He's this, he's that. Go on to TikTok live right now. You'll hear people losing their minds at each other. It's ridiculous. And what I don't understand is how these documents can show us that this didn't happen. The news doesn't care. At the end of the day, there's no answers. There's no answers. And I'm not being a Debbie Downer. I think it's absolutely amazing what happened yesterday. I think it's a huge win. We need to continue to ride that momentum. But I do think that we need to look at it for what it is. Totally okay to treat yesterday as a big time victory lap. But I feel something in my gut tonight, Hive. I feel it. I feel it like I had this exact same feeling in the beginning, like what's happening? Why now? Has anybody else felt that? And the question of the day could be more of a rhetorical question because I know that we've discussed that at lengths of looking outside of the documents in here. And the poll that I had in the chat was, well, if the answers aren't in the documents and the answers aren't in the PCA and the answer's not in the mainstream media or any one of these docuseries or books, well, then what was and what is the real purpose of this chaos? Because at the end of the day, yesterday was chaotic. It is still chaotic. You can see the echoes of it and the shockwaves still. And I bet that it's not going to go away anytime soon. And so I had asked you all, what was the real purpose of the chaos? The chaos was the cover story, came in at first place with 55%. In second place, to make every theory look possible at 18%. There was a tie with to hide one critical mistake. And at 9%, coming in at last place was to keep everyone arguing forever. And I agree with what came in at first place. The chaos was the cover story. And I want to break down how certain individuals and other family members of people involved in this case are acting, how they're acting. What is their behavior causing? What is everything surrounding this case causing? Chaos. And there's no answers within that chaos. So it does make you scratch your head a little bit as far as, wow, the timing of yesterday to stir up a ton of chaos with Netflix coming out, a ton of chaos right before Brian Koberger had his deadline. It's a little bit strange. Who's the chaos covering for? Now, I'm going to go ahead and say what's up to everybody. Feel free to type the answer to the question of the day out into the chat. I will put it up on the screen. Becky, good to see you. Becky said, in my opinion, I hope they will not, quote unquote, railroad him into getting a trial. Oh, I'm sorry. Jesus. Into not getting a trial. Let me read that again, Becky. Becky said, in my opinion, I hope they will not, quote unquote, railroad him into not getting a trial. Blue Mustang 5002 said his family is watching and giving him updates on info he never got. How is that possible? LeBon Chat said, which one of Brian Koberger's lawyers falls on the sword for a trial to even happen? If they don't, there's no chance. Luna Rose said, yes. I also felt the same moment I heard Charlie Kirk was shot. Goosebumps. Altruistic Murder said win, 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 win. Cass and Cressida said yes, because it's all by design. It just fits together so perfectly. The timing should certainly be an eye-opener. Nomadic Duckman said the lawyer and his dad did a show on this. His dad made a good point. This is actually rare. If Brian Koberger's mother and father testify they were all misled, it might hold up. Mindful Hayes says, I've been in an ongoing argument forever. A day now. It's a constant joke. They only want to say the main BS narrative. MIA, Saber Rogers, good to see you. Germilla. That's enough of that. Okay. Les Awake, Queen of Jokers, Crime Junkie. Sleuther Dare said victimology and sociology, in my opinion, is where some hint of truth could be. Aaron Riley Creates, good to see you. Said, I think the truth is more simple than they have made it out to be. I hope so. I hope so. I'm actually on the complete opposite side of the spectrum for that. I don't think the truth could be simple at this point. If they're covering all this up, and I'm not roasting you, Aaron. I know a lot of people have said that. Occam, I can't ever say that word. Occam's razor. I just feel like, wow, what a magnificently complex cover-up that has been an ironclad steel curtain for something that would be so simple. You know what I mean? I need titties. Miss C19, formerly known as Beck, said hashtag winning. UFO Dog, Oceans 1111, UK Karen. Not a camera, it's a potato. I'd love that username. They all had their roles to play, including the lawyers. Denmark Dane, thank you for the jewels. Hannah Banana Annas. Thank you for the flowers and the jewels. Every time I can't say it. Enigmatically Sane said, off topic, is it plausible the dash of the Mowich truck was popped by someone that doesn't know how to remove light switches / wires for a light bar? Interesting. But why? So is it possible that the dash of the Mowich truck was popped by somebody that doesn't know how to remove light switches / wires for a light bar? That's good as far as who we need to look at, who has experience with taking apart a car. But where are you going with that? I'm very curious. That's a good question. WTF Who Done It AP said, good evening, Big Birdie. Miss is beautiful Birdie and Birdie Bump. Also, hello to the best mods ever. It's a great night to expose Dill Hole. Dill Hole. Jesus. Love and Other Habits. Thank you for the super chat. That speaking of chaos, I came across a theory suggesting that BK was involved in a ritualistic group called the Master of Chaos. Feel free to interpret this as you like. I have not heard that theory. Love and Other Habits. But I do know that the ritual theory or the church theory, something to do with Christ Church or D. Wilson, all the numerology, is a popular theory because a lot of people don't believe that all of this could just line up and have that line up in addition to it. So I need to check that out. I'm curious about it. If nothing else, it's very interesting to read about and to open your mind up, one might say. Bree Bland, thank you for gifting a High Plus membership. And Veronica, I can't say it. Veronica Ibarra. I butchered that, but thank you so much for the 2 jewels and sparkles. Genuinely confused. Good to see you. UK Karen, it's all sus. Danger Zone. Every time that I see your username Danger Zone, I forget the name of the movie. Maybe Brandon Rutter will help me out since he's my movie expert that I seem to lean on in the Hive. But there was this, I don't know if it was a comedy, but somebody tried to get the tattoo of the word danger on their arm and they couldn't handle the pain. So it just says Dan. And whenever I see your username of Dan Jerzone, that's what I think of. And I don't know if that's why you have it, if it's a pun or a play on that movie, but I'd be curious. Sabrina, good to see you. ABJ all day. Nature Rocks. Top Gun. That's the movie? Oh. Blue Eyed Candy, how are you doing? Les Awake. Jasmine Hall. Missy McGinnis, thank you so much. You rock. And April G, whatever, thank you so much for gifting out a Hive Plus membership. It's giving redaction. What's going on? Aaron Riley followed up and said, it's more simple than we think in a sense of there's probably one piece they're not telling us that would put it all together and make it all make sense, but it's still being withheld or redacted. Now that I agree with. Mommy Milker Mindy, 69. Good to see you. Terry Dawn, that's right. What a week. I love saying what's up to you guys. It's always cool to see some usernames that I haven't seen in the past, but definitely love seeing all the familiar usernames. Thank you again so much for everybody that is tuning in this evening and choosing to spend your night here in the Hive. Go ahead and do all of the things. If you had not, hit like, hit subscribe. If you would like to check out the Hive merch store or the Spotify playlist for all the intro songs, my TikTok, or our incredible Discord, go ahead and screenshot that QR code now. And then when the live concludes, just go ahead and go into your Photos app, tap on the code. That'll bring up a link tree with all of those links. Same thing with Hive Plus. If you're interested in joining Hive Plus and having access to all of the emojis and the loyalty badge next to your name, as well as access to the live chat on Saturdays, which I will be doing a War Room this upcoming Saturday. Everybody can still watch the stream, but on Saturdays, I do shut the stream, or not the stream, the chat down for those who are kind enough to financially support this channel. So thank you to everybody in advance, and thank you to everybody who is already a Hive Plus member. Now, we're going to have a little bit more of an open dialogue. Last week was a super guest-heavy week, and I feel like I wasn't able to dive into the chat as much and pin a bunch of comments, so I'm going to do my best this evening to do so. So get your fingers loosened up, Hive. What? Dude, that is totally a childhood recall back to driving to flag football games with my father. He would play whatever type of pump-up music on our way to flag football games, and my dad would be like, all right, loosen up your fingers, get ready to grab some flags. I'm just like, oh, if you could see me now, Dad, the only thing I'm loosening up my fingers for are these high-knee titties right here. All right, focus, Birdie. Anyways. But looking at this, chaos was the plan. I know that that's a theme that we've talked about, but I really want to just break a couple of things down, okay? So I have some notes here. We have almost, in a way, like a five-act, I don't want to say movie because it's not a movie, right? But I know there's some people that are either going to lose their mind or absolutely love that I just said that. But there's like this 5-act event playing out, right? Because every single time something like yesterday happens, which is a massive thing, don't get me wrong, we always get told, relax. The next development will explain everything. Just calm down. Everything is going to work out exactly how we expect it to. We're going to go and we're going to dive in and we're going to do all of this research and we're going to say, now, this is what they're going to do. They're going to claim this, and then Brian's going to do that, Ann's going to do this, and then most likely it's going to come out of the blue and either be something we never expected, or if it is what we expect, it seems to skip a lot of the steps that we were anticipating happening. So it catches us all off guard. But it almost always, explains nothing. The arrest of Brian Koberger was supposed to explain this. Then when that didn't happen and it was, who is that guy? Nobody recognizes him. Well, then the PCA was supposed to explain it. Oh, don't worry. This is going to go to trial. The discovery before the trial and during the trial, when they show evidence and they get witnesses up on the stand, that will explain it. But then the trial disappeared. Okay. Brian Koberger, he's going to have to say what he did before he could take this plea deal, right? So the guilty plea was supposed to explain it. And now Brian Koberger has filed a handwritten petition asking the court to let him withdraw that plea, claiming coercion, false promises, threats, misinformation, ineffective assistance of counsel, and actual innocence. As a reminder, he's not successfully withdrawn the plea yet at this point. But he is asking the court for post-conviction relief, and he faces what I think is going to be an extremely tough uphill battle personally. Again, it's not being a Debbie Downer. That's why I said I think tonight is going to irritate some people, but I think it's an honest conversation that we need to have. And somehow, even in all of this developing, the development that supposedly changes everything, none of the original answers are answered. None of the original questions, rather, are answered. Still does not explain what happened inside that house. And if Bryan Kohberger is truly innocent, everybody, what do we expect to hear him say? If it's Bryan Kohberger and he's fully innocent and he has no connection to them, no motive, everything that we've heard, what are we expecting to come out of this state versus Bryan Kohberger as far as what happened inside that house? What was the motive for something that's happening inside that house? Why those 4 victims? It doesn't explain the sequence of events at all. Doesn't explain how the timeline works. It doesn't explain where the weapon is. Doesn't explain the vehicle movement. It doesn't explain every question around any phone evidence. We might be able to finally clear up Brian's, but what about Ethan and Xana's location? What about where's Kaylee's phone? Ultimately, it does not explain why he pled guilty at this point if he was innocent. And that's what I'm saying is going to irritate people. I think we need to just think about this, because one of these 2 statements of Bryan Kohberger, flat on its face, is a lie, right? And just let me explain this, because it's not clarity that we're seeing right now. And that's why I'm saying is chaos the plan. Because it's either when Bryan Kohberger pled, he was lying about Ann Taylor being effective enough. And I know that he left a couple boxes unchecked, but that means that Ann Taylor was lying, saying that she felt like she had everything. She said yes. It's on the record. You can watch it. There's body language. I know. I'm aware. I don't want people thinking that that's going over my head. I'm just saying, if we look at these 2 factions of what Brian's doing, unfortunately for him, it does play into Bill Thompson saying, well, we don't want to hear from Bryan Kohberger because no matter what he says is going to be a lie. Could be a part of the cover-up. But really what I'm getting at, guys, is the guilty plea and the withdrawal of the guilty plea. It doesn't matter which way you look at it. People can nitpick it. My point and the overarching topic, besides the chaos being the plan, is that yesterday does not provide clarity still. It's not the final puzzle piece. It's another puzzle piece that is just dumped on top of the first puzzle piece that was dumped on top of the second puzzle piece, or then gets a second puzzle piece dumped on top of that before anybody even got the first 2 pieces put together. And now I'm going to dive into the chat, like I said, because I'm going to go through this 5-act thing. I don't know what to call it. I don't know what word to call it. A 5-act crime, a 5-act justice system. Trilly Fly said, Birdie, I think you were on it. Yvette said, appeals are always hard and they take years. True to it said, are we part of a social experiment? It's a whole rabbit hole that seems to be opening up more and more day by day. Chaos and Christina said, what's going to come out of this? All of the lessons we need to learn about IgG, surveillance, etc. Facts. CB from Philly said, we've never seen phone evidence, just spreadsheets. Let's be clear. Terry Dawn said, too many comments made that make me believe they have Kaylee's phone data. Not as dumb as you look said, I've entertained him wanting to work for Pullman to tank the Moscow police department before. These schmurders. Mary Goodnight writes, the development that changes everything is the hair in the hand. He is claiming this is the exculpatory evidence that has been withheld. True. Could. 0 F's given. Sincerely, Gen X said definitely an uphill battle, about 15% or less win. Debs said bye, chat. Bye, Deb. Blue Eyed Candy said, but contrary to that, BK would tell the truth. Well, right. That's what I'm saying is you guys know how I feel. I don't want anybody to think that I'm going back anything. I'm for sure not. I'm just saying at the end of the day, he either lied when he stood up and took the plea or he's lying now is what people can say. That causes the chaos. I don't want to get that confused with obviously the reason why innocent people say they're guilty for sure. I for sure understand that. I hope you guys get that. For my own peace of mind, please type a 1 to let me know I explained that properly. I don't know. Idaho said, good one. Who is the chaos with Brian covering up? Exactly. Okay, good. I see some 1s. Good, good, good. Pineapple Diana, thank you for the super chat. Said, I'm thinking we are also excited to tune into your live even more than ever. That if you were a Pied Piper and we were all little rats, we'd follow you, jump off a cliff, and find the right answers. Jeez. You rock, Pineapple Diana. Thank you so much. That's amazing and hilarious. I don't think anybody's ever said that to me before. The Baxter, too, said psychiatrically, he was not able to understand OCD. That's another one, too, where everything that we think we know about Brian Koberger, we've been told at the end of the day. And I understand that we've seen him in the courtroom where it's an awkward movement, or we've seen him on camera. And don't get me wrong, I agree. I've been around people with conditions similar to him. I see it. But again, we don't really know what it's like to have a conversation with him, right? We haven't been around him specifically. We can give a blanketed statement, but that blanketed statement, I mean, the reality of it, even in here, is there's different experiences with people that are on different levels of the spectrum. And I mean, zero disrespect by that. I just believe that it's a reality, but we've been told that. We've never experienced it specifically with Brian. Is it a certain tick or OCD trigger that he might have? Is it something that just makes him quiet? Who knows? We don't know Brian. Yeah, is it awkward around the opposite sex? Russell Outdoors, has anyone gone to the prison to interview him? I believe that the New York Times one was just a message that was sent. Correct me if I'm wrong, everybody, but I believe that's all it was. The other thing, too, that I'm starting to realize, I know people bring up a lot, is this some sort of social experiment? Not necessarily the crime, but the way that the internet is dripped information, the way that the mainstream media reacts, the way that there's these like echo chambers, which I guess exists for everything. But this feels very different. And I remember Luna brought this up to me, and she's like, have you ever seen a case that has gotten people so obsessed? She's like, I don't know how to explain it, but there's just something about this case that it's got people hooked. Like, why this one? There's a lot of other crazier cases, or crazy cases, not crazier per se, but this one got people hooked immediately. And we were having a discussion about that briefly, and I was like, that is odd. It's very odd. But it's made me realize, this case has made me realize that the internet has an unbelievably short memory. Because before Brian Koberger pled, we had years of unanswered questions. Not meaningless questions by any means. But they also weren't questions that seemed to matter to to the state. Why the house? Why the motive? Things that we've asked a billion times. So what I'd like to go over here is little things that I feel like I'm starting to see on the internet that people, again, just lose their mind. I have JLR up here, and the reason I have this in a Hive Mind Find without necessarily people's names on is because I picked two that I saw posted like 3 or 4 times in our Discord or that was sent to me on TikTok. And so this is kind of a combination. We have JLR, who, as you know, was boots on the ground from day one. He was reporting. And I'll start with some of the tweets. Mary Koberger sending her son, Brian, a lot of commissary money. Then he had retweeted from Michael Ruiz reports, admitted murderer Brian Koberger, who now wants to take back his guilty plea, has received more than $10,000 over the past year in donations to his prison trust account, according to court filings where he is asking for Judge Stephen Hippler to appoint him a new lawyer. And then JLR follows up and says, I bet Brian Koberger's mommy is putting him up to this. Ridiculous. Why does this matter now? Why does this matter now? And I don't know. Is $10,000 in commissary money over the course of a year a lot? I guess I don't know if it's coming from his mom and one person only. The Beehive has been a member of Hive Plus for a month, tuning in from the Hive Down Under in Australia. Thank you so much for tuning in, Beehive. And I did, I put JLR up here not for any other reason besides just he was one of the first. I know everyone's got their opinions on him. Don't get me wrong. But I found it just interesting. He was one of the first to cover it, and even he doesn't seem to have any questions. Let's see. I just saw a comment. Tiffany Elena said, I had a friend who was in prison and she sent her $500 almost bi-weekly. Brittany says that's not a lot for commissary. Crime Junkie said, so Bertie, why don't you call Brian Koberger and do a phone interview? Well, I have no problem trying to call Brian Koberger. I feel as if maybe now would actually be a time to attempt it, seeing how we talked to somebody at the New York Times. I've never even given it an attempt because of stuff either that I've heard of people sending stuff like a book or trying to write to him and it never gets there, or he doesn't receive it, or they say it's not received, or people trying to find record of him. And so, I mean, I could absolutely. At this point, though, like, what is Brian going to say to us? I feel like even the statement to the New York Times was very calculated. It was very clean, crisp. Fiji said that Brian called the reporter. Bottom Teeth Andy said, if you knew someone that was going to take someone out, for example, the AK, and gave them a knife sheath to plant at the scene, example, Brian's DNA, whose DNA first? So are you saying, Bottom Teeth Andy, that if you knew somebody, so I'm going to reread that again. So if you knew somebody that was going to take someone out, let's say it was the Aryan Knights, and you gave them a knife sheath to plant at the scene, Brian's DNA at the scene, are you asking whose DNA would have been on it first? And yeah, I also think someone's right in the comments too, saying that I think he would have to call us I don't know whose DNA would have been on that first. I don't believe that it could have. The DNA thing is such a trip. Oh, whose DNA are you going to check first? But if I knew someone that was going to take someone out to the area nights and I gave them a knife sheath to plant at the scene, being Brian's, whose DNA? Well, you're going to take the guy. You're going to take the DNA and test the DNA of the guy whose DNA was planted, right? Is that what you're getting at? Am I missing this point totally? And if I am, I apologize, dude. Lou Stone said if he was looking to purchase a K-bar and touched one in Walmart, then it could have been transferred anyways. True. Hang on, I just saw bottom teeth Andy. The knife sheath DNA would be checked first, meaning framing yourself for a school final. I see your point. Well, and that's what I was going to say, Christy, is but wouldn't his DNA be all over the sheath, not just on that snap loop? But also in this case, I think it does certainly seem that it's not even just me saying this. Everybody has seen it with their own eyes, that they pick and choose when the DNA matters. And that's what I was just going to say, duck, duck, sloop. Let's not forget about the 2 unknown male DNA left at the scene. And no shit, Sherlock said they don't need hair or anything more to do it. The one and only Mert said Hippler will deny. He can then appeal in federal court, but it would probably take years. So I'm going to go on to this, and then I want to talk about what the one and only Mert just said, because that actually leads into a couple of the other talking points that I have. Now, Cat's Mojo sent me this, and Cat's Mojo brought up a really good point and goes on to say, just my random thought. So weird, because since the big news drop yesterday of Brian Koberger, at this time that I'm writing to you, which was at 10:28 in the morning, I believe today. So at 10:28 this morning, the time I'm writing to you, I have not seen not one interview yet with any of the other victims' family members. Have you? Nothing from the Mogans, Kernodle, or Chapins. Stephen Christie, Goncalves' faces in interviews are spread everywhere in your face on every network mainstream media circuit. What is up with that? That's a good question. Now, again, I always preface this, like, I'm not here to necessarily just go and throw a bunch of shade at parents. Do I agree with their behavior? No, but I'm not them. And it's not me trying to pussyfoot around it per se. I think it's rather odd. You know that. But I also feel like that doesn't necessarily help anything. But you can talk about it. That is a little bit strange. Why are they on every platform? Why are they the only family that's speaking out? And I don't know if anybody saw this in the bottom right. This is a screenshot. This does just make my jaw drop to the floor, where somebody put on their family page, this is what happens when people lie. Nothing at all about this case makes sense. And all the evidence I have seen since he was convicted proves only that they were murdered, but nothing to prove he was the guilty one. And whoever the author is of this page says, you are so foolish, you poor little sheep. Not one thing to prove him guilty. Nothing at all. You are stupid as bleep. And another person responded to the original commenter saying, I'm so with you on that. And then whoever's writing for this Facebook page responded back and said, you are stupid as bleep too. I don't understand that. I don't understand that the energy wasted on that. It seems like, is chaos the plan? Because in a way it's working. We're talking about it. What's really going on? It's causing chaos. This is the last one. This is one that I saw posted a ton in the Discord. Mike Baker apparently is writing a book about this and said Kohberger's plea docs include a series of attestations that may make his petition to reopen the case more difficult. No, he was not forced or coerced. Yes, satisfied with attorney. No, on other promises made. Yes, to understanding plea withdrawal may not be possible. I don't know enough about this from the legal world as far as how much this piece of paper matters compared to what you can really show a judge in court or show evidence of what's on the record. So I'm not sure. I feel like there could be a massive debate about it, but I just saw a lot of people talking about this, specifically that Brian Kohberger had left a handful of these unchecked, which is, has anyone made you any promises or coerced you to act in this matter? Not filled out. And I wish to be given a continuance. I wish to be given a continuance to decide how I would like to be represented. And I wish to retain or hire my own attorney. So again, not too sure. I agree with that. Ocean's 1111. He does say that he was told to lie and admit to being guilty for capital murder. Now, okay. So I'm just trying to find this slide here that I have some of my notes on. Okay, so this is what I'm calling Act 3, right? So Act 3 is this case continues to remove its own answers. And if we look at the sequence that plays out, okay, we're not talking about the emotions. We're not talking about who we like, not who we trust, just the sequence in this. So first, the house at King Road was demolished before a jury ever saw the case presented at a trial. Then the trial itself disappeared through a plea agreement. Then the guilty plea eliminated the prosecution's burden to publicly prove the complete case beyond a reasonable doubt. Then the defense surrendered the opportunity to challenge every major item through cross-examination. Kohberger waived major legal rights as part of that agreement. We then know and saw play out, he was sentenced to life. After all of those doors had closed, he filed yesterday a petition claiming the plea was produced through coercion, misinformation, false promises. This is where my intro picks back up. And that's, do you see the pattern? At every stage, another mechanism capable of producing clarity disappears. The physical scene disappeared. The trial disappeared. The live testimonies disappeared. The jury's evaluation disappeared. The public battle between experts disappeared. And then the plea, the thing that replaced all those mechanisms, is now disputed as well. That leads to what I'll call this extraordinary outcome. I think that's a good name for it. And that's that the case achieved maximum legal certainty at the exact moment public verification became unnecessary. Okay, so the case achieved maximum legal certainty at the exact same time public verification became unnecessary. Think of how dangerous of a precedent that is that's being set, everybody. Once the public just says, we don't need to see it, we don't need all of those things that are designed to provide clarity. We don't need them anymore. We don't need the crime scene. We don't need the evidence. We don't need a trial. We don't need any battle between experts that's televised. We don't need to hear from a jury. We don't even need to hear Brian when he pleads. And it still produced this, like I said, I don't know what else to call it. It's extraordinary what just happened. That, as Dead Men Awake just said, years later, the public, the majority of people don't even care to see any verification of this. And that it's just good enough that the system, that everything disappeared whenever there was a chance for the defendant to show he was innocent. That all disappeared because he was backed into a corner and felt like the only thing that he could do was admit guilt, or was told and coerced that the only thing that he could do was admit guilt and get a, quote, legal victory. His words. That is a massive paradox. That is the paradox. And now, it's so ironic. Even the admission yesterday is already being challenged. So what are we left with? Chaos. Are we to believe that the prosecution had evidence that existed at this point? Well, let's look at their statements. It doesn't sound like it. They said, we're going to prove all this to you. And then they, in the same breath, said, we can't show you any of it. We can't put them in the house. Don't have a motive. Not just Bill Thompson, but the investigators, the documents. Are we to believe that the defense had prepared challenges? I mean, we saw as a public hearings, but really just fragments of what those challenges were going to be through filings and hearings. Again, never at a trial. The chaos is created because neither of those two things were ever in a courtroom at the same time. And what that does is it doesn't provide proof that the prosecution would have lost, and it doesn't provide proof that the defense would have won. It can't prove that Bryan Kohberger's innocent, and it can't prove that Bryan Kohberger's guilty. But it is proof that this outcome we were all hoping to get with a trial where people spent years waiting for never occurred and still might not ever occur. Doesn't that freak anybody out? I think that it's terrifying. And that's why I've always said that if we do not change the narrative surrounding the Idaho 4 case, we are all cooked. And it seems like you can't even get to that point of a conversation anymore. And the only debate now is going to be about, but he admitted guilt. We don't care about the stats. You should learn what a guilty plea means. Okay, well, how many people confess to crimes they didn't commit? And then it's just like this never-ending circle that really could be applied to any case, not just this case. Well, it was DNA. Well, there's no chain of custody. It's trace DNA, though. They said it was a 99.999% whatever match. Again, it's not about this case, though. Every single time when it comes to clarity about this case, it doesn't count. Ever. Tell me that is not almost too perfect. Type of 1 if you feel as if that is almost too perfect. Every step of the way when there could have been clarity, we get the opposite. And I understand legal battles, yes, but this case feels different because of outside factors. Outside factors like how much the public has now seen. Moving on to the fourth act. Let's talk about the hair and the hand that it's in. What could the story around it be? Because obviously that's one of the most attention-grabbing claims that Dr. Turvey and the book Broken Plea, authored by Chris Whitcomb, came out to say. We have Bryan Kohberger in his plea withdrawal statement say broken plea and reference the hair in Ethan Chapin's hand. My question And I would find this hard to believe. I would find this almost impossible to believe. I could be off. I would shit a golden chicken times 10 if Brian Koberger found out about the hair in Ethan's hand because of broken plea. So that makes me feel as if the exculpatory evidence that's talked about in broken plea, people knew about that still. But apparently it was Bethany that had the exculpatory evidence. So unless that's some weird play on words, why would that be as detrimental of it coming out where Cy Ray has to say that's the biggest BS that he's ever heard when it came to Turvey talking about that? But yet Brian Koberger brings it up in his plea withdrawal statement. How is that inadequately, disclosed? Or how is that explained by Brian Koberger's attorneys at that point? Because one of Brian Koberger's retained experts concluded and talked about this hair and how he believed that it matched Ethan and not an unidentified attacker per se, or it complicates the idea surrounding the attack completely. And that is by somebody who is retained by Koberger's attorney. Right. And that's what I was getting at, Terry Dawn. Thank you for summing that up. One solitary hair was tested, and that's what Cy is going off of, but there were different types of hair in both rooms. Exactly. Now I did say, I'm like, unless that's a play on words, what else could it mean? And Secret Soul Survivor was picking up what I was putting down. And is that because it's Bethany's hair? I don't know. That would be an insane way to phrase it, but you could say it without anybody knowing what they're talking about. It's also a great question, Dead Men Awake. How does Cy Ray stay on the defense now? No shit. Sherlock said, I'm charging law enforcement with burglarizing our trust. Hands behind your back, buddy. Citizen's arrest. Yep, Germillan said, and wow, the FBI has it. Blue-Eyed Candy said, Cy Ray, I like how you spelled it, said discussing the hair was just silly. Dr. Turvey said the beer pong table, there was so much more important stuff than that as well. I mean, it fits into this pattern that we're talking about this evening. Eddie said, or Dylan's in the body cam, her hair was wet. The one and only Mort, or not Mort, Jesus, sorry, the one and only Mert. My bad. You do not have to change your nickname to the one and only Mort. The one and only Mert said, I'm more apt to believe it's Dylan's hair. What's up, Blue Man? Good to see you. I have had this weird feeling, though. I don't know. Could be wishful thinking. I remember Chris Whitcomb talking about how there is a major platform that's going to be producing something about the Idaho 4 case. And I don't feel like any of them that we've seen have taken the side or the angle that Chris Whitcomb and Dr. Turvey have taken with broken plea. And so I am curious if Brian Koberger withdrew his plea and if Chris Whitcomb said there was a massive platform working on a series, is that meant to prepare the public for what they are about to see to help completely shift the tide? Like, is that strategic timing? Because that could absolutely play into this chaos as well. I mean, imagine how that would affect public perception. Brian Koberger is on every news channel, so everybody knows that this guy just withdrew his plea on July 27th. Now, I think is it at midnight on the 29th or whatever that is? If if Netflix comes out and takes the approach like Broken Plea, because even that Broken Plea was discredited immediately by everybody that is a guilter. And I can't believe that I just said that word, but I don't know what else to call it. What are your thoughts on that, chat? What do you guys think? Do you think that that is what we see playing out? This was strategically done on Brian Koberger's part to share that he's going to be withdrawing his plea. The Netflix documentary drops. It's in favor of proving, or not proving, but providing reasonable doubt about him committing this crime based on evidence that may have been in Broken Plea or into the documents that all of these people clearly have not read. Tranquility Based Productions, thank you for bringing that up. Yes, the producer of the Netflix series made the West Memphis 3 documentary that changed that case forever. Blue Eyed Candy said, we can only hope. I know, right? Blue Man, I felt weird saying it. Blue Man said, I haven't heard Gilter in quite a while. Shelly said, I believe it's all strategic. Lauren said, I could see it. Thierry Dawn said, that'd be nice. At least one unbiased documentary. Sherry said, yes, we hope. I hope so, Beck. Timing is everything. It's all sus, said wishful thinking, but nope. Frank Castle said, there's a good chance Brian will never make it to trial. If they have the balls to plant a knife sheath, they definitely have the balls to hire someone to take him out. And they've definitely had the balls to go on to television. Many people, it seems like, handful of people at least, on major platforms and say, when he gets the Gen Pop, there's going to be a pop, or just planting that narrative seed that Brian Koberger is going to be unalived in prison. That's a good point. Don't drink chunky milk. I've actually way back in the day, before I ever started like streaming, and I was just making short form content on TikTok, I had this thought. I'm like, man, Netflix seems to time up these cases so perfectly whenever there's doubt surrounding it, don't they? And you have to think about how much work and effort into getting the interviews, filming this, getting B-roll, narrating it, producing it, getting all of the permission from people to do it. It's crazy how much time and effort that would take. But I feel like a lot of major cases, the one that really opened my eyes was the Gabby Petito case. I felt as if, I actually think I asked the question of like, does the FBI work with Netflix to an extent? It felt as if the Gabby Petito Brian Laundrie case, if you remember that series on Netflix, I felt as if that was meant to force this into the public eye in a way, because I felt like there were some questions that were still unanswered. Ruth Walker, thank you so much for the super chat, said, Birdie on Custody Queens, the point was made that as OCD as BK is washing his hands in germs, I can't imagine him being covered and soaked in blood. For sure, Ruth, that's a great point. It's like the point of Brian Koberger is a vegan, but he owns a leather sheath. I don't know if that's a thing that vegans follow, but in my mind, it made sense. Depending on how hardcore people are at being a vegan. Duck Sleuth said, did you all see how angry Trashley Banfield was in her response to Brian Koberger speaking out? Why? I don't think that I did, actually. But I will have to check that out, Duck Sleuth. I can only imagine. Not as dumb as you look said, where did he spend his H days? Pennsylvania. Just curious if he's part of a drug situation from way back. A good amount of people that do get into trouble go into justice or psych. Man, look, again, this is something that probably irritates people, but I am fully convinced that that's a cover story. I really do. I think it's a cover story. Not that, or it wasn't as bad as people said. I'm not saying that people can't kick addictions, but guys, look at the fast track of success that Brian had. beating what apparently is a severe heroin addiction. But yet we've interviewed, I'll say his name, I'll just say his first name. We've interviewed Will, who said that he's never seen Brian use, but he would go pick up at one point in his life with Brian. That's when he'd see Brian. He never saw Brian use. I'm not saying that I couldn't, like, I'm not saying that I look at him and I just don't think it. I want to clarify that because I know that addiction can hide itself. That's something that everybody needs to understand. Addiction can look different in everybody. Your past addiction can look different in everybody. I just feel as if I don't feel like he would be able to be doing the things that he was with law enforcement or the PhD or criminology. I just don't see it. It's too, I just feel like the time would be, it just seems like a fast track, and the education fast track kind of puts it away. And again, I'm not going to argue with anybody because I don't know. That's just my feeling. You know, I get it was years ago, but Brian Koberger went to, he transferred to how many schools. He was referred to about all, you know, about how good of a student he was. And I'm not saying you can't be a good student and addicted too. There's always going to be the argument of, well, I know somebody. I know that. So I'm not going to argue with anybody on it. That's just my opinion on it. Spirit Light said, my friend is vegan, no leather, no feathers. She even bought a BMW with vegan leather. Oh, she's rich. It's a big deal. Curious what, if any, other leather items BK had, like shoes. KS Justin Art said, interestingly, none of his using days were ever on a photo. That was something that I actually wasn't so surprised on. I just think it's strange that Brian Koberger has minimal digital footprint in general. But I remember there was people that when I was talking to Will that were hating on Will or discrediting Will, saying, well, then where's the photos of you guys together? In my head, I'm like, well, what is he to do? Like back in the day, like, you know, they're about to shoot up and he just pulls out and takes a selfie. I mean, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. I'm sure it does, but I feel as if you really only know the guy when you're going to do either a pickup or something and you don't see him use, the alarm bells in my head go off back to controlled buys, because you got a guy who's trying to get into law enforcement and trying to get partnerships with other police departments. That's on the record. We see the people behind the scenes talking about it, and he was in criminology. So I'm not sure how early that starts for controlled buys, or if he's trying to do some sort of not apprenticeship, but some sort of program like the Citizens Program back out in that area in Pennsylvania. I don't know. That's my opinion. Not saying he couldn't be using in private either. I feel as if this discussion, there's going to be an endless debate about it. So that's why I just feel like with Brian Koberger and law enforcement and other stories I've heard about controlled buys with guests that we've had, and I don't see him as the type personally. But again, I understand it. I understand why people might have a different opinion on it because of their own experience. So that's the beauty of the Hive. We can all agree to disagree on that part. I want to go back to the hair. Okay, I want to go back to the hair in the hand. We never finished that part. Because I'm beginning to think that the chaos around the hair is because, and why that was a big deal that Dr. Turvey had said that, and why it was a big deal that that was in broken plea, and why that's a big deal that Brian said that, and why they're referring it to the exculpatory evidence is because the question, I don't think, is just simply whose hair is it. The more important question is, what did Koberger or his attorneys know about that evidence when he made the most consequential decision of his life and pled guilty? Because if his attorneys tried to explain it to him and he misunderstood it, that's different. But what if behind closed doors it's strategically discounted? We know it wasn't tested additionally. We know how some experts feel about it. But I just don't feel as if that hair is something that Koberger later discovered information about that would have changed his mind or his interpretation as far as why he should be pleading guilty or not. I feel that that hair leads to a massive unresolved question as far as context to what happened that night. And that's why I think there has to be chaos around it. That's why I think that there has to be such a butting of heads. Right. That's what Turvey said, that he apparently found it a week before the plea. Did the state know about it? I don't know. But again, there's no clarity on it. No clarity. The hair causes chaos. Trying to read this chat here. The Beehive said, why was Ethan's blood outside of the room on the half wall? I know Accomplished Day had a theory that I had shared in here that it seemed to resonate with a lot of people, that maybe Ethan was injured prior to getting to the room and that blood was run off from his hand or his elbow, or he bumped against the handrail. I think in Accomplished Day, her theory was that Ethan could have, lifted his hand up and like grabbed it almost as a railing as he's approaching the top of the stairs. So that's how I'd answer that, Beehive. Yeah, because of a fight at the Whites, potentially. Grazy said, I still think that they put the socks on Ethan Chapin. I'm not sure if JJ State of the Deep is in here. JJ is a guest sometimes on Wednesday evening. He will not be on this week because he's on vacation. But I will refer to what JJ State of the Deep says, and that is that the most basic facts of the case, such as, well, Ethan couldn't have left the bed. They told us that he had clean white socks on. Again, that's all. We've just been told that. I don't want to piss people off when I say that, but I'm serious. Like, we have just been told that. How do we know what a clean white sock is even classified as? I mean, we could really go into the debate of, okay, well, if they cleaned a week before, did they clean their floors? Could that lend to their floors not being that dirty? Well, no, it's a college house. Of course it's going to be dirty. Okay. Well, did Xana just happen to keep her floors extremely clean? Why would his white socks not get dirty even just walking from the bathroom to the room? So did he get into bed and sit on the edge of the bed and put his socks on? I mean, it's just, it seems as if there is points that are made that would prevent you from thinking somebody staged the body and put the socks on him after death to make it look like he didn't get out of bed, or that we have to remember what the story is that they're trying to sell the public on, that they could just say, well, he didn't leave the bed. He had clean white socks on. There's no blood on it either. You know what I mean? I don't think that that's rocket science. And I know that that is lying and it's manipulative. And we'd like to think that people in positions of power that are public officials wouldn't do that. But newsflash, there's many examples of people doing that. Just in this case alone. I'm not sure why we would choose to necessarily trust that. Sometimes I sleep in my socks, Mrs. Birdie. Why am I sharing this with you all? I don't know, but it's too late. Now I have to get the thought out. There are times when, if it's cold, I'll throw some socks on, and Mrs. Birdie always refers to them as like, oh, you're putting your condoms on for the night. I don't know why she ever started saying that, why it's so funny to us, but every time we geek out laughing whenever that comes up. But I agree. Most times if you sleep in socks, people think that you're psychotic. So Enigmatically Sane said, I circle back to pain shown in digital chain for, quote, repackaging the sheath on June 23rd, 2025. What if they made sure there was something there to retest? A hair shoved down in it from jail, etc. Will it come out why it was interacted with? Damn. I like that thought process. Jeez. Who knows what you could do to ensure that the retesting of evidence will produce the result that you want? Especially to this point, enigmatically sane, that the chain of custody is so sus on it. Looks like it's all written by the same person. I thought it was interesting that Dr. Turvey had to say even we have to make sure that it's from this case at first. The other thing that this just made me think of is Dr. Turvey saying that we've been told who lives in that house. Danger Zone said chain of custody. I like it. I like it. Thank you for the super chat as well. Enigmatically sane. That's right, Sherlock. DNA amplification, the topic that brought me and Sherlock together. 2009, there's an article written in the New York Times that a scientific journal published out of Israel, I forget the exact name of the scientific journal, talked about that with something ridiculously low, like 424 people, 423 people. If you had 424 samples of random people's DNA, and as I say this, remember about how many people had their brains scrambled by the COVID swabs, how many people have spit into tubes to see if they're part Viking or whatever heritage they are. So we know that there's been data breaches with those DNA companies and IgG that is becoming a thing. But anyways, this article goes on to say that with just 423 or 428 random people's DNA, that any biology undergrad could create any other person's DNA without having their original DNA. So think about that. It only takes 424 people and their DNA to make your DNA. And the giveaway to that this article talks about is not only that it's possible, but it talks about how the DNA would be amplified using something similar to a PCR test, so it can make these fragments of DNA much bigger. And guess what? What does Ann Taylor say in court? We don't know how the SNP doubled in size. It's a giant secret. I use it for my intro all the time. Sherlock said it's super easy to do. That professor guy who was accused of having foreknowledge of the crimes is an expert on the process amplification. It's also one of the only ways a text script can double in size. Yes. Under Hayes Karen, welcome to Hive Plus. Thank you so much for joining. Jeff H in the house. What's Gucci, Jeff? I feel like you haven't been hanging out in here. Why? Either way, the technical terms, if I just mess that up, that's not DNA, S&Ps. My whole point is this. There are giveaways to when DNA is messed with. And it can be done. You can fabricate DNA. And they did that back in 2009 when it went publicly. So God only knows how long this technology has existed. The Beehive, thank you again for the super chat, said, did the Erica app make Xana and Ethan arrive home separately? I firmly believe Ethan was first, and the loud scream was someone seeing Ethan dead already. I think there was two separate events for sure. One of the theories that always pops into my head is that, and it's not just with things that we've heard and that we've seen, and how Ethan's not really brought up in the narrative. But that interview with the Chapins saying that they're not interested about the justice, I'm not coming at them. I'm just saying it sticks out to me. And how we hear stuff going on earlier. People will say it till they're blue in the face. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I don't know. How could you even say that? And so one of the things that I've said is I felt like it could have been a medical emergency. And that is a way that maybe the clean white socks could make sense. And that if he didn't stand up when he was bleeding and it didn't get on his legs is because he was already incapacitated in some form or fashion. And so that's been a thought that we've had. We've discussed that. Guys, so let me finish this segment 5. Okay. Segment 5, Act 5. And that's that the strangest feature of this case, and this is a short act, but the strangest feature of this case is that Brian Koberger pled guilty to killing Maddie, Kaylee, Xana, and Ethan. We obviously never received any sort of detailed public confession that we all expected. We never even got the explanation of a motive. No theories or thought process on why he picked that house. No comprehensive description of the entry. No complete sequence of this is where he went. Here's what his car looks like. There's so much stuff, guys. I can't even. My mind is going a million miles an hour, and it's like the backsliding door. People thought, oh, there's footprints. Well, those footprints are seen in a photo earlier that night, and they've probably been there because they're frozen over with ice. I think they went out the backsliding door. It comes from Dylan. Does the car have fog lights? Does the car not have fog lights? There's no explanation of the weapon, even though there's apparently 2 different types of wounds. No explanation of his mental state. So let's just use a school project that he did before. That will explain it. We don't even have the ability to go against Brian Koberger's own narrative. How weird is that? The only narrative that we have to go against is the state's and the media's. We don't even have a narrative from the guy who confessed as to what he did outside of stargazing. But that's the most minimal information that we could possibly have. So it's like, what are we arguing against? We're arguing against that Brian didn't do the state's story, but the state set it up in such a way that there's just enough there that they probably could have, I'm sure, won a jury over with the right amount of jury poisoning by what they put into the media. No explanation of Dylan or Bethany. No explanation of so much. But what did we get? We got a confession without an explanation, everybody. And the public lost their mind immediately. People are still saying it to this day. He pled guilty. That's all I need. He pled guilty. That's all I need. While we're over here saying, well, the lack of details make this plea deal very suspicious. But even when we say that, depending on who we are, and I'm saying we as in like the camp that thinks that this is very odd and there's more to this story. Many times on the other side, I'm not here to play teams, but sometimes the teams and these analogies there's no other way around it other than to say it. And that's that people get so emotional. They get so emotional. And that leads to blind justice, as Blue Eyed Candy just said. But before I go, I want to play a short clip. Guys, let me get you into my mindset quickly as to why I'm showing this. Because I don't think that I said it that well yesterday. When I said I find it very strange that Brian Koberger used the word broken plea in his statement, The reason why I felt like that was weird is because how hard Ann Taylor came out at Dr. Turvey because of it. It could have been a dig at Chris Wickham and Dr. Turvey. It could have been a nod. But the fact that then they used Ethan's hair in his written statement, to me, feels strategic. It feels strategic. The chaos caused more people's eyes to pay attention to it. Oh my God, Ann Taylor's ripping Dr. Turvey a new one. Oh my God, in the book, it said that there was a clump of hair in Ethan's hand. Cy Ray said it's BS. Oh my God, what? And we talk about it, and it gets out there. Broken plea got out there. Dr. Turvey got out there. Chris Wickham's interviews got out there. Cy Ray got out there. Now Brian Koberger withdraws his plea. That's all over the place. And on Netflix, they're about to release a new series. I mean, it feels strategic. Do they really care that the public argues about this, or do they care that people are made aware of it? So, with all that being said, the fact that the hair was referenced in his statement, handwritten, I went back and I found the clip of Chris Wickham bringing up another point. And I know that people feel as if this has been figured out and solved, but I don't think that we've gotten this down. I think Chris Wickham is trying to tell us something is right in front of our faces when it comes to this Linda Lane dumpster camera and the black SUV. So I'm going to play that clip quickly. Okay? I get it. People have gone deep on it. People have said, no, he's wrong. And Chris Wickham addresses, he's like, people are confused because of this police report. And he's like, I want the true crime community to track this down from about 4 in the morning and some change to about 6:30. Okay. And I've been thinking through this since I heard the news of Brian Koberger withdrawing his plea and seeing that he said broken plea. I immediately went and rewatched this, and I was doing some research on it today. So let me go ahead and pull this up. Black SUV can you guys hear that? He kept talking about.
Guys, what's going to happen moving forward, I think, is I would encourage people to look at the Linda Lane video, the 1112 video, and chase it out till 6:30 in the morning, because this SUV leaves Linda Lane. It goes past the house. It's gone for 4 minutes. This is right after the car. So
can you guys hear that?
I think
specifically Chris Black S. Right. I know Pav chased that down. I have a different thought on it that I don't know if people have thought through yet. Maybe they did. I don't have a chance to watch everything that everybody puts out there. So bear with me. This is like a 2-minute clip, and then I'm going to explain my thought process. TV that he kept talking about.
Guys, what's going to happen moving forward, I think, is I would encourage people to look at the Linda Lane video, the 1112 video, and chase it out till 6:30 in the morning, because this SUV leaves Linda Lane. It goes past the house. It's gone for 4 minutes. This is right after the car. So can I just summarize this real quick? Because I think this is going to be a thing moving forward. So the white car leaves the...
And the fact that he says, I think this is going to be a thing moving forward. I don't know.
Around 4:20 in the morning. About 4:24, you can see in the Linda Lane video, somebody walks up from the direction of the house with a backpack, appears to, gets in the back, throws it in the back of a full-size boxy SUV, gets in the driver's side, backs out, leaves. You see it go down past the 112 video, turns right. You see it through the dumpster video going up Taylor Road. It goes up Taylor Road. It's gone for a minute. There's nothing up Taylor Road, right? There's no... Where are you going to go at 4:30 in the morning up at Taylor Road less than a mile, turns around, comes back by the dumpster video at 4:30, goes back up, and because it has a very, very loud exhaust, it appears to park in front of the house, engine shuts down, sounds like you hear a door slam. Much of this is known, but it's mistaken for another SUV because there are police reports. The thing that I'm hoping people will chase out, at 6:30 in the morning, 2 hours later, that SUV goes from there, goes back to its original parking spot. The question is, why did it leave at 4:24 in the morning? Why was it gone for 4 or 5 minutes up Taylor Road, comes back, parks in front of the house, and then 2 hours later at 6:30 in the morning goes back to its original parking spot, and that same person gets out and walks back down that way? It's going to be something that I think the true crime community will chase out.
What was it about the spare? So, okay. Going back to that, and just to clarify, I saw Mark B's in here, and again, I could be butchering this. Absolutely. Okay. But I want to talk you guys through what I feel like he might be saying. Because I think it sounds like two different vehicles too. But I find it very interesting that he points out this is right after the white car leaves. And he's telling us it appears that the car parks directly in front of the house. You hear the engine shut off. You hear what sounds to be a door slam. And then it sits there for 2 hours. And then he says, and then the car returns and comes back to its original parking spot. There are certain things that he doesn't say, though. Okay. And if you haven't seen this footage, this is what I'm going to be showing later in the week, but I'm hoping people can help me out with this. When we see the person walk onto the Linda Lane car park camera at like 4:20 and some change with the backpack and get into the car, right? They leave. I have always thought that it takes that person longer than normal to get from up by the car park into the view of 1112. Almost to the point where if they said, meet me at the end of the driveway, I'm going to go get my car. They get in their car. They drive down that little hill. They stop just enough. Somebody else gets in. So there's now two people in that car. They leave. I believe what he's saying we have confused is that we think that it's different people. What if that second person that got in, or what if those two people got in, they drove that car somewhere, and they got a different car? What if they parked the loud exhaust SUV in the driveway so that it looked like it was there? And then when he says the same car returns, well, you see that car pull back in on the 1112 and into their parking spot. And it returns to its normal spot. So my thought is, was that the black Explorer that they brought over and we have it confused? I don't know, because he says it's the black or the dark SUV. And did they leave the car that pulled out of the car park? Did they leave that car wherever they grabbed the black SUV from? And then somebody else brought it back in the morning. Does that make sense? I don't know how else that could be interpreted. I don't know how else it could be interpreted. Because when he says, where are you going to go at 4 a.m. for 4 minutes? I'm trying to think. The only thing you could do is like throw something away, stash something, or change vehicles, potentially. Crime Junkie saying Hunter Chapin. Mark B said not enough time. So if it's 4 minutes, not enough time, I mean, That's why this is what I was going to call you about too, Mark, because I've been thinking about this for a while. I mean, we don't know how far they went up Taylor, right? We don't know we can guess the speed that they're driving for sure. But I just want to let me just show people this. And I know that I'm putting myself out there right now. It's a working theory. That's what we do here. So that's the beauty of doing stuff live for people that don't know. We're not putting out this perfectly curated content every single time. It's a live thought exercise from every now and again. And that's what we are doing now. So bear with me here. So 2022. Okay. King Road. Somebody walks over to the car park, gets into the car right here. That car leaves. I think they slow down just enough for someone to get in. Now there are two people in that car. They drive up Taylor, and he says that they turn around randomly. So if I zoom out, just so people can see this, I mean, I believe that if they left here, drove out, and made it to right here where they'd be out of the angle of the dumpster camera, and someone was waiting here or somebody lives over here, I don't think that they went and necessarily did this full loop. They could have just whipped a shitty and parked here for a second and came right back. Right? Because I agree, Mark, there's not enough time to do all this or to go wherever. But if they made a UE or if they switch cars in this area, I think they could do it. And then I think what they do. So let's just say that I'm going to start over. Okay. So I know that I don't have the exact times, guys. So just bear with me. This is a broad statement. Okay. So I'm not going to be able to tell you guys the exact minute. I'm thinking through more so just the movement right now. Somebody walks out of 1122. So actually, let me back up. The white car that they say is Brian Koberger leaves. Boom, it's gone. Right after somebody's seen leaving, getting in their car in the car park here. That person backs up. I think they slow down. Somebody gets in. We see them drive off here. They go up Taylor. We see them through the tree line of the dumpster camera, as he stated. And I don't think they get that far up. I think that they get right around here. Maybe they go up and around here, whip a UE, stop somewhere in here. They get out. They leave the car that they just grabbed from over here somewhere up the road, and they are coming back in the loud exhaust car, and they are parking it in the driveway. It's staying there for 2 hours. Now, what I believe that Chris Wickham is saying that we are getting confused about is that we're interpreting his statement that we think that this car backs up and goes and parks up here. But that's not the case, because on the 1112 in the morning around 6:30, we see that car pull back in up here. It doesn't have the loud exhaust. Neither did the car leaving have the loud exhaust. So my thought is that loud exhaust car parked in the driveway, that stays there, and it's there for 2 hours before somebody either walked over there and got it and brought it back and parked it in its original spot, or somebody else brought it back over. I just saw Luna said they're screaming into the void right now. What am I missing? What is everybody? Or there was someone in the car the whole time. I mean, guys, I'm thinking out loud. I don't know, but I find it very odd that Chris Wickham goes out of his way. Oh, okay, Luna, that was to sleuth. I get worried whenever I see one of the mods that are like, I'm trying, and I didn't know if it was me. I mean, could that be possible? So let's watch this. So the person comes out at 4. Is it 4:32? When did they come out? Right here. 4:22. So it's going to be quiet, but listen to the exhaust. That's not loud. Mark, let me explain this quick and then I'll pull yours up if I have time. But that's what I'm saying. It's not the same SUV. I'm agreeing. It's not the same SUV. But I think that's the point Chris is trying to say, is that who's ever in this car is bringing back the different SUV, or there could be something that makes them think that. So this person gets out. Okay, so they leave. Now let me pull up this video. Jesus. Okay, so I want you to see, I feel like this car slows down. I'm not saying they're meeting up. I'm saying that people are getting out of the car that they left in and they're getting into the SUV. I hope that that's coming. That's why I need to call you, dude. I feel like I'll be able to explain it better to you, because I know you know the timestamps. I'm not saying anything against your theory. I'm just thinking out loud here, man, because I feel like this car slows down and it's meant to go get another car. So now we're going to pay attention to the timing of this. Okay, there's the lights coming down the hill. Right there. Slowing down. That is so much slower. Somebody just got in. I think somebody got in. And so now they leave. And if we go back to this, where the heck did that just go? I'm trying to pull up this quick. I should have had these prepped. Sorry. Okay. So that's at 424. And I'll have this put together more, guys. Just again, I just wanted to see if I'm even onto something with this interpretation. I'm trying to interpret it. Okay. So there's the car. Do you guys hear what it sounds like? So now it comes back. You can see it. I'm going to follow it with my cursor. So it continues up Taylor. There it goes. And now we listen to it come back. Because the exhaust sounds way different. Yes, Mary, that's what I'm kind of getting at. Yes. Because you can hear this exhaust approaching from a long ways away. And did I miss it? What time does that exactly come back at? So it was 4. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm determined to figure out what he meant. So it comes back at 429. Sorry, I was way past it. What's up, Duneweiser? Saw your name just fly by. Okay, now listen. You can already kind of hear the rumble. All right, thank you, Fab Finder. You guys hear it? So this is going to be a way different exhaust coming back. Hang on. I know you can't hear much right now. You can just hear it kind of off in the distance. Who told me that it was way back there? I went too far. 428. Thank you. Okay, so you can hear it in the driveway. That's what I was hearing. Okay, listen to how different this is. Thank you, Mark. That is so different sounding. Okay. Especially now when you hear it on this camera. So they park in the driveway. So what I'm getting at without fully saying it, and then at 6:30 on this camera, you see that original car that left the car park go and park at its original spot. I'm going to get this dialed in to where I can show you guys quickly with clips. So again, I know that people have their opinion on it. I just feel like there's something there that we could be missing. We could not be missing. I feel strongly that he said that for a reason, and how he specifically said, what I think we're going to play out is this. And my question is, whoever went to the car with the backpack, did they slow down enough? Was somebody already waiting on the other side of the road, perhaps? They slowed down just enough. They get in. They go drive over there. They get that SUV. They are driving back together. And then do they, at 6:30, 2 hours later, somehow go get that original video or not the video, the vehicle, and drive it back over? So I don't know. Was Hunter Chapin there earlier? Did Hunter have somebody drive him to his car? Just say, hey, we'll take my car. We'll come back and get yours in a little bit. I don't know. And then did somebody bring the original car back over? Let's listen to what Chris said again, because I swear he's trying to tell us. He said a lot of weird stuff in regards to Ethan too, in my opinion. Okay, so show 6:34:45. I'll do that for you, Mark, because you were a big help today. Thank you. Show 6:34:45. I feel like that could be the same car. Just to clarify, I'm not saying that it's the loud car. I'm saying I feel like this could be the same car that we see back out. I'm going to turn that down so we don't get radio or robots. And that's why they have these big ass blurs to do. I feel like the front looks similar. I'll get it. All right, this is the last try. Oh, come on. Why isn't this working? Why can't I take a screenshot of this? Why isn't that letting me? No. Oh, come on. Well, I'm going to have to screenshot this, but I wonder if going back to this now. Last couple seconds here trying this. $634.45. See, that looks like it changes. It won't let me screenshot. So I'm gonna get that right. You know, it's been a while since we've kind of done a live theory dig like that, but I'm gonna look into again what Chris Wickham said. Thank you to everybody who did send jewels. We got Data sent in 440 jewels. Or I'm sorry, we got Shibi sent in 440 jewels. We got Dana sending 10 jewels. Chloe said, "How the hell is the white Elantra sus, but not the Stam SUV?" Facts. Thank you so much for the super chat. Chloe XOXO 2001. Red Sonia, Sandra, Dame, Blue Eyed Candy said, "Could Hunter Chapin have witnessed something, and that's why the Chapins won't go against the narrative? They're already down one." Oh, that's deep, Blue Eyed Candy. But you do have to wonder why some things like that are said. Majestic Princess, thank you. It's all sus. That feels like good against bad battle. Otherwise, this would have been buried a long time ago. Powers that could have made that happen, yet here we are. That's well said. I agree. It's all sus. I do feel like there's a good faction versus a bad faction, as Sherlock said a couple streams ago. No doubt. And it almost feels like there is a power struggle playing out behind the scenes. Sarah K, Renee, LA Designs, Renee, Ashley's Activism, Crazy Bird Lady said, the producer of the new documentary that's coming out on Netflix is friends with Turvey. They worked on Paradise Lost together. I did see that all over our Discord. Thank you, Crazy Bird Lady, for the super chat. I appreciate you. Always good to see you in here. Pretty much 7 p.m. Thank you for being a High Plus member for 3 months. Said, I've always been sus of Steve. He wants Brian Koberger gone really bad. He talks too much. He's hiding something. Just the feeling I get. I don't think it's because the straight up evidence points at him. I mean, maybe he's doing that just again to draw attention to it, to have people say, what like evidence. And there's so many people maybe that are just potentially brainwashed by the mainstream media that continue to hype it up. But if it ever does, if that is why he's doing it, I mean, it's going to wake everybody up to it. I mean, could you imagine? Think of how many people are looking at it for things like what we showed, and then think about how many other people are looking at it because they agree with him that they're so guilty. It brings everybody in to be aware of it. Again, wishful thinking, one would like to think, but I don't know what else the reasoning could be at this point. Red Sonia, thank you. Gee, sending a ton of the gold or the jewels. Duck Sleuth. Love and Other Habits. Thank you so much for the super chat. Said, need to F you on Mankin and Jenkins. Do you recall the footage of two cops? Did they get her? Did you see her? And possibly, was it your first time? I don't. Oh, I feel like I could have been misinterpreting that, but Love and Other Habits. Thank you for the super chat. I'm trying to remember what the body cam is. Is that what you're referring to? Or was that an interview? Oh, the follow-up. Need to follow up on Mankin and Jenkins. Dr. Macon and Jenkins. Jeez. Sorry. I'll clown horn myself for that one. Need to follow up on Macon and Jenkins. Do you recall the footage of two cops? Did they get her? Did you see her? And possibly, was it your first time? Yes. And Dr. Macon and Jenkins are all over this for whatever reason. But we do need to follow up on that. Absolutely. Christy Stevens, thank you for being a member of Hive Plus for 3 months. Said, it's the cases that don't make sense that gets me hooked. Facts. Yes. Not as dumb as you look. Said, love to address how ratchet the G's Facebook page has been with people that want justice for their kid. Like, you're not nervous with all that rage. They completely changed, worse than the Kardashians. People have their opinions on them for sure. And I'm not saying that I'm any different. I have my opinions. And I do think that there's obvious changes that have happened. And there's also behavior, though, that's been consistent. It's been chaotic. It's been consistently chaotic at the end of the day. But I do know, not as dumb as you look, that a lot of people have opinions very similar to yours, and it seems strange cussing strangers out that are just reading the court documents that are publicly released in the case, stating nothing's pointing to him being Brian. Angelique Flores, thank you for the jewels. The Bexter too says, psychiatrically, he was not able to understand OCD. I already read that one. Same thing with that. Pineapple Diana, thank you again. Lou. Pierre 6976 says, Hive the Hive. Love it. D-Dog Wifey, thank you so much for the 5 memberships. Oh, enigmatically saying, you brought this up earlier. You beat me to it. Said, to hide the truck had one. No. You'd brought this up about Mauch's truck. To hide the truck had one, being the front light bar. You had discussed if it was the truck on camera that night. Was thinking about tonight. Yeah, the one that's that looks like at 12:28 after the people get out of the car. I swear to God, that's a transforming car. It sounds crazy. Go watch it at 12:28. It goes from like a Mustang to what looks to be like a RAV4 or a Pathfinder, and then it turns into a black diesel truck with a light bar on the front of it at 12:28 on the Linda Lane car park. Go check it out. Your mind will be blown if you haven't seen it. Kim from Oz, thank you for the gold coins. Pieces of April, thank you for gifting out a membership. Jay Wiz Walls, my apologies. And that is all of them. Hive, I just want you to know how much I appreciate you choosing to spend 7 p.m. to about 8:30 or 9 every weeknight here in the Hive with myself and everybody else in the chat. You guys rock. We will continue to dive into this case, and I will see you tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central. Sleep good, everybody. Cheers.